Welcome at a new Workplace Ninjas podcast. And we are here in the Netherlands and at a new location, at a new meetup. Kenneth, where are we?
Well, we are actually in Almkerk. We are in Almkerk, which is a little bit below Gorinchem, above Breda, so in the south of the Netherlands. And we are actually here within a cinema, a full-service cinema, where we are going to host our next meetup today, starting in about 1 hour.
In 1 hour, so we can record a few things.
Yeah, we have 1 hour to record a few things, indeed.
Yeah, and Kenneth and Ronnie, you're already known in the meetup as organizers. We together are doing stuff, helping people, sharing knowledge, and so on. And on the right side, I have a new member of the Workplace Ninjas crew. So Joost, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Joost Glijsteen, 44 years old, especially doing a lot of stuff around workplace and Intune. So that's something I'm going to do in this meetup as well. So hoping to get a lot of knowledge to you guys as well.
Great to have you on board. Thanks for that. And today we have Kenneth, Ronnie, and Joost and myself in this recording. What was the topic, Ronnie, that we have decided for this episode?
I believe we are talking about Azure subscriptions and how you can protect them in a good sense and make sure that bad actors are not able to get your keys and host some crypto mining things on your subscription. I believe that's what we are going to share, not only from security-wise or paper-wise, but also from real-world examples. Things to take care of, and also things to consider and take with you to prevent these kind of situations.
Yeah, there was a reason that we have assigned this topic for this recording, because Tony Kreiner, one of your colleagues in the Netherlands, was active on LinkedIn and posted a video where he explained that at the moment, in the past months and at the moment, really Azure subscriptions are under attack. With people are trying to log in, and if they are able to log in, what you already said, they are enabling VMs, crypto mining, and that sort of things, and that can be, a pity, because there are costs for VMs, but they are enrolling big VMs. They are cost a lot of money, so it can have a big impact on your bill that you have to pay to Microsoft, for example, Kenneth, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. So one of the advantages of Azure is that sometimes people tell you, the only thing you need is a credit card. But actually, because of that, it's actually quite easy to, once you gain access to an environment where that credit card is already registered, to start creating all kinds of VMs and get actually unlimited computer power at your disposal and leverage that for your better, in this case, the crypto mining stuff.
And do we have seen that actually at customers in environments that where we are active in, Joost?
Yeah, we've seen it, unfortunately, at one customer, but yeah, it was a pity.
And then the bill can be huge.
Yeah, it went up to the 100,000 euros and up.
So, what are things that we can do on that tenant subscriptions to avoid these situations, Ronnie?
Well, before we go into more details, I think we should analyze it a bit on what might be the root cause, how these bad actors can enter your subscription and take control over it and do these things, because there are a lot of risks are imposed if they are able to get access to your subscription, not only hosting crypto mining, but also other assets which might be accessible. So I think we should go a little bit more on what the reason is why these subscriptions can be tempered and then being accessed to. And I believe getting back to the message Tony Kreinen stated on LinkedIn is one of the things is that credentials are gained. And administrative accounts which are not protected by multi-factor authentication, strong authentication, that might be one of the reasons. There are multiple attack vectors. Subscriptions or resources within a subscription can also be accessed by other credentials, secret keys or service principals or other things. So that's also one of the things I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Joost and Kenneth, but I believe it's also because by the fact that administrative accounts were not protected by multi-factor authentication. Not sure if that was in your situation with your customers.
Well, indeed. Turning on the MFA is one thing, but we, for example, also see that, for example, guest accounts within an Azure AD tenant receive contributor rights on subscriptions. And then the case is, if the guest account is compromised, then your subscription is as well. So it's all a matter of putting enough governance on your Azure subscriptions as well. And what we see, for example, especially with customers who want to have flexibility for their developers, that, for example, there's a developer subscription with lower security, and therefore, actually, that subscription is highly a possible target for these kind of attacks. And again, it's all a matter of making sure your security is all right. You have proper security measures in place. We can say that maybe by default that security is not on the level that it should be if you want to properly protect it. So there's some work to be done there.
Yeah. Is it Joost, is it only MFA that is missing? Maybe there are, Kenneth already explained a few, but are there other things to keep in mind?
Yeah, there are several stuff, I think. It's the roles you have to keep in mind. Because several roles are different, and you can also create tenants and MFA and VMs with those kind of accounts and roles. But MFA fatigue is something else. That's why something Microsoft is going to change on the 27th of February. They're going to enable for every tenant the number verification as well. That's a big thing you have to do for those kind of accounts. But principal accounts, scripting with what you can see sometimes still they're using a username and a password into a script. Those things are a little bit different to get it handled and have to do because it's more legacy stuff. It's between the error and the user and the keyboard. So yeah, a little bit difficult, but those are the things I can arrange to do something else with.
To wrap this up, Ronnie, MFA, guest accounts, other things. Are there things to keep in mind?
Yeah, definitely. Apart from that, what is already mentioned, I think it would be wise to implement policies. And Azure provides you policy frameworks. By default, there are some regulatory policies which you can apply to all your subscriptions. So that's something which I definitely encourage you to do so, because that's also giving you insights on the security posture, and it's also identifying whether or not you applied MFA, whether to admin accounts or regular accounts or workload identities, for example. And another thing which is not preventive, but might disrupt the success of an attacker is, for example, consider cost limits, for example, quotas. Because if you are surprisingly with these high costs and it deviates from normal usage, that should be also triggering yourself. So monitoring and also preventive controls like cost management might be something to consider.
Yeah, good tip, Ronnie. And especially in security sayings, the idea is not to make it super secure, because a super secure environment is an environment where you cannot get in. But the idea is to make it at least more secure than your neighbor, hoping that the bad guys actually take your neighbor instead of you in that case.
Yeah, and I think what Ronnie is mentioning, Azure policies to set spending limits. If you have a test environment or a dev environment, definitely enable that spending limits.
Yeah.
If it is a production environment, probably you can set a spending limit with a range that you can fit your normal operating system. If that not, please monitor that subscriptions to get insights what is happening on your subscriptions to see if there is a malicious activity, so you can take action on that.
Yeah.
But that is on the Azure part. Before we are able, and you already mentioned some stuff, but before we enable and get access to that Azure subscription, the first layer of defense, that's the identity part.
Indeed.
I think Kenneth was one of your specialism. Realize like conditional access.
Yeah.
Is that helping? And can that be helpful in this sort cases?
Yeah, indeed. So enabling conditional access, enforcing MFA, maybe doing some step-up authentication. But in my opinion, also making sure that if somebody has extensive rights within an environment, they don't have it 24/7. Think about privileged identity management, making sure that if you have extensive rights, that they are time-bound, to say so. So it's more like a combination of things like conditional access, MFA, privileged identity management, and all that together could help to make this a little bit more safe.
More secure.
Yeah.
But if we want to enable identity protection or privileged identity management, I need an Azure Active Directory P2 license, for example.
Yeah, for your admin accounts in that case, or the accounts accessing that environment.
Yeah.
That shouldn't necessarily be all the accounts in your environment, but only those small accounts having high privileges. And if you would ask me, that's a small price to pay for the advanced security that you get.
Absolutely.
But again, I can't determine that for my customers, but that would be my advice to do so.
Yeah. We need to set up conditional access, privileged identity management. Can be a lot of work. If we do it only for admin accounts, it could probably more or less than for the whole environment, but the advice is to do it in the whole environment also.
Indeed, yeah.
But the security defaults that still automatically enabled on new tenants and in new environments, are they helping to secure environments as well, Ronnie?
Yes, they are helping. I would say it's more like be cautious of enabling security by design. The only thing is we should be open of it, is that these security defaults, that's only for a straightforward deployment or straightforward implementation, and these will not fit an enterprise organization, for example. Yeah. So then it's good that it is there, and by default security controls are enabled, but they are not always sufficient, and it requires some extensive deployment of these kind of things. And again, the policies which I refer to are helping you, because you can use these policies because they are reporting out recommendations. And for example, Defender for Cloud is also helping you not only protecting your workloads, but getting by default posture management. And based on posture management, you will also have these insights, recommendations, and that's helping you like an agile approach to implement these security controls per your needs.
Yeah, and cloud security posture management within Defender for Cloud is free to use in subscription. So you can enable that without extra costs. If you want to secure based on threats and that sort of things, you can enable the enhanced security within Defender for Cloud, and that takes cost. Okay, but the free version gives you insights in what the state is of your environment.
It's all starting with insights, because based on the insights, you can make your decisions.
Yeah. Is it necessary to have an external monitoring system like Sentinel, like Defender for Cloud, other things to? If I am a small medium business customer, I have not the full control about my Azure subscription, for example, is it necessary to get extra insights from an external security partner or so?
It's getting more and more useful to have, but I can understand it's too much for cost to have it. But if you get a SOC or SIEM environment like Sentinel, probably you can get some more info and get more alerts when an account is elevated or being used. There's going to be a prompt for it. So it could be useful, but yeah, it's all about the costs in that kind of stuff.
Yeah. To wrap it up, what can we do? First, enable conditional access to turn on MFA for role-based access, for example. Enable privileged identity management. So if you are an owner or contributor on a subscription, that's only active in a certain time box. Enable cloud security posture management within Azure Defender for Cloud. And probably if you want to extend that with extra cost, you can do some threat detection as well. Yeah. Are there other things that I...
Well, actually the policies that Ronnie mentioned, which you can put on your subscriptions, making sure that maybe that those big VMs cannot start or cannot be created in the first place. The time the cost spending limit based on, for example, what you normally do on a monthly basis, and add maybe 20%, but it can never be a double of it. All those kinds of things that, while we are talking about it, actually make sense, but we see that companies don't implement them. So actually, the best security is to implement normal things. Yeah. That you would normally do as well.
Yeah, start with the basic security layer. If you enable that, then it's harder for attackers to compromise your subscriptions. Yeah. So please do that.
Limit global admins and don't use your own user account for those roles as well.
Yeah, you first look at the secure score, for example. I think that will help definitely.
Indeed, yeah.
Okay. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Well, thanks. You, Frans.
And thank you for listening to this episode. And probably we see each other next time. Thank you.